Boom. Welcome back, guys, to Let the Journey Begin. I am your host, Jason Waller, alongside Hilary. What's up, Hills?
Hey, just living the dream.
How do you sound like me now? You know, what's going on over there? Did you get Did you get that RC car up running that I got you?
Man, I finally got Damon to help me figure out the batteries. So the batteries are charged because it's some weird computer thing. Of course, it's got to be complex, a gift coming from you. And
okay, guys, let's be real here. Hilary got this gift for me 3 weeks ago. She's had like 5 guys, her boyfriend. She's had her like producers, all these people around her. She still doesn't have this RC car. It goes like 60 miles an hour. It's like the size of a kitchen table. I can't believe she doesn't have it set up yet. But anyways, let's hear some more excuses.
Well, also you were going to come to town, and then those plans changed, and I kind of wanted to do it with you here too.
Oh, come on! I know that, but
yeah, because it'd be more fun with my broham.
I know. But other than that, everything's going good.
I am so happy. I've been dating this guy for 4 months, and there have been no red flags, and there haven't been any red flags that I've painted green or turned into red carpets. I learned that recently. I learned that expression. So I said, I used to turn red flags into red carpets.
I love it.
And he's very, so far, as my therapist says, he appears to be. He's respectful. He's kind. And this is going to be, when we get to our guest, this will be like such a miracle, because really the last 2 guys I dated before him were both kind and respectful, and one moved away, and then the other one, it just didn't work out for other reasons. Have the utmost respect for both of them. I have nothing bad to say, but when we introduce our guest, you're going to see I had a whole pattern even into long-term sobriety of choosing men that represented what I grew up in. And yeah, bro. But tell me how you are. How are you?
I just want to acknowledge that, because you shared a lot of your trials and tribulations over the last, since we started the show. You were going through a lot of up and downs, whether that was in romantic relationships or just in relationships within friends. And, as we are on this show, hearing people's journey and their growth and where they're at today, it's amazing, because we've also been able to hear your testimony, and through the vulnerability, you've created humility, and you've been able to show the work that you've been doing, and to show the outcomes that you're getting, and you're a product of your environment, and it's you're surrounding yourself with good people now, and it's taking you some time to get some of those people out, but it's showing, it's reflecting, and I think it's important. It's something to acknowledge. So I just wanted to give you kudos.
Thanks, my friend. Thank you, bro.
Everything over here, you know me, man. I'm just making the most of it.
Well, you're one of those safe, awesome people, and I appreciate you so much for it. You know I do.
I know. Well, the feelings are mutual, and I'm very excited, because the person that you are about to introduce is somebody that you've spoken very highly about, who's been inspirational and transformational in your life. So why don't you give our listeners our intro to Lisa, and we'll bring her on.
So our guest, I started listening to her YouTube videos before I took her 12-week course. And I started listening about narcissistic abuse, codependency. And I had some introductions to codependency, but really the way she dug deep into it and shared her own experience moved me. And then when I dove in and really started working her program, my life began to change. It's layers of an onion, and it wasn't easy. It was at times heart-wrenching, but I can tell you my life has been forever changed because of this woman, and I'm absolutely honored and excited to introduce you guys to Lisa Romano.
Thank you, Hilary. I have to correct something. I just hold the flashlight. You do the work. So when people say, "Oh, you changed my life," I'm like, not really. I might supply what you need, but kudos goes to you, because it's hard, and like you said earlier, that, when we manifest narcissistic relationships, troubled relationships, very oftentimes they're mirrors to what we've experienced in the past, and we just don't know it. And like you learned in the program, we're all asleep. We're all, living a holographic experience until sometimes we have so much pain, we're forced to look within. We have nowhere else to go. And you're a person who, when the chips were down, you turned to yourself and you learned to rely on yourself. And that's just amazing. And that's what people need. They need people like you. They need people like me that share our story, share our vulnerabilities, cry on camera, and say, look, this is what I went through. I'm no different than you. People need to know that it's possible. That's what I always loved about you, because you are so positive and you've done so much and you've turned your life around. And my gosh, like you're such an inspiration. And even though you have pain, we all do, but you're still moving forward in spite of that pain. And that's what people have to learn how to do. So I'm really honored to be here.
I'm so excited. Jay, why don't you ask her that first question?
Yeah, thanks, Lisa, for joining us. And that's very well put. I like that. I hold the flashlight. That's a good one.
That's all I do. That's all I do. Well, you know what it is? Jason? People have to, sometimes, people from abusive backgrounds, it's so hard for them to accept the good about themselves.
100%.
Right. And so it's so easy to say, oh, well, I did it because of you. No, you did it because of you. Right. Yeah. You have to feel good about you. It's your glory. However you got there, you got there. I just supply the tools. You have to work the program. So the glory is all Hilary's.
100%. What's the saying? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it. You can provide the tools, but it's on the individual to do the work.
Yeah. And the people that do change the world, because 100%. they've been able to change themselves, and then they become inspirations for other people. And I just think that's a beautiful thing. And, look what Hilary's created.
100%. The work you put in is what you get out. I'm a firm believer in that, and it's, you don't get to where she's at, or a lot of people, for myself, yourself, you don't get to where you're at unless you put in the work. And
I think the goal really is to fill people with hope, because when you come from such an abusive background, sometimes you don't believe that there's hope, and you can't imagine that you have it within you to actually heal. What?
Yeah.
What? I can do this. And people really need hope. And that's what I love about what Hilary's doing, because it's that little bit of hope. I think I can. Well, if Hilary did it and it was that bad for her, and look where she is now, maybe I can. Maybe 100%. I can. So it's the hope. People have to be taught that they actually can do it. Well, and then put in the work.
Yeah. Well, speaking of hope, I'm dying to know, I would love to hear, what is it that you, Lisa, wanted to be when you were little? What did you want to be when you grew up?
Hilary's going to laugh, but a singer.
Man, we've had a lot of singers wanting to come on
here. Yeah. I wanted to be a singer. I felt very in touch with, Hilary knows this, I used to write poetry. And that's the way I expressed my emotions, because I had nobody in my experience that would listen. I connected to words. And there was just, whenever I listened to a song, I was that kid listening to the lyrics. I wanted to know the story behind the song. I wasn't just somebody who was just, memorizing words. I was like, where's the story? Where is it going? And so that's what I wanted to be.
That is what caused you, like when you're saying you weren't being heard, what do you mean by that? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, all children, after all the research I've done, all children need to feel seen and need to feel heard. So in other words, like when a child walks into a room, they need to feel like the adults in the room see them and hear them. Not just hear, mommy, I'm hungry, but hear their pain, hear their aches, hear their fears, be attuned to them. And children identify the self with their emotions. And so when the emotions of a child are ignored, then a few things happen. Children learn to ignore the self. Their feelings don't matter. And then they also assume that the self that they are is unworthy. And so feeling unseen and feeling unheard causes a child to walk around feeling like they don't have a sense of self. And so me thinking that I could maybe be a singer, was like not possible. There was nobody reinforcing that in my environment. If anything, we were mocked when we sang. We were mocked when we danced. We were mocked when we laughed too loud. it was a double bind because then when I got quiet, if I expressed myself, I was called a drama queen. If I wanted to sing, I was called selfish. So why should you go for singing lessons? That's selfish, right? So, okay, that's not working. And then I closed down. Well, you're just a cold fish. It's a double bind. It's a no-win situation.
So what I hear you saying though is your parents or is it your parents that weren't there? Are those the individuals?
Oh yeah. My parents were 2 unrecovered adult children of alcoholics. Oh, wow. Both quit high school. My mom gave birth to me at 19. What did she know?
Right.
Her father died right before I was born. My father was not there for her. She was 19. She raised her 2 brothers, wow. Who were also struggling alcoholics. What did my mom know, about rearing a child? She was angry. She had all this pent up anger and frustration, and then she had to take care of a newborn. So no, she had a difficult relationship with her mother. So how could she nurture me if she was never nurtured? I get it now. But as Hilary knows, the first 4 weeks of the coaching program that I offer, I ask people to go back to the beginning. Can we just spend a little bit of time figuring out, forget about your parents and all the trauma they went through. We need to focus on you. We need to focus on what happened to you and why. You need to understand your inner child. Then phase 2, we can learn to take a little bit of responsibility and accountability for our codependency. But phase 1, what happened to you? How did it affect you? And how did you develop codependency? And why do you keep recreating these patterns and ending up in narcissistic relationships with people who mirror the energy of your parents?
Powerful.
Wow.
Powerful.
So I'm going to ask you this, Lisa, and I know some of it already. What traumatic and frightening experiences have you had in your life, like before you got to the coaching? And I know some, like what were the things that led you? And then we'll get to that other point of the point of where things started changing. But
I think what the big moment for me was when I began to realize that I was programming my children for codependency. I was programming my children to be zombies. I was representing a lack of self to my children, and that scared the hell out of me. I looked at my mom and I thought about my grandmother who committed suicide. I saw my mom losing herself in her relationship. My brother-in-law committed suicide. I'm looking and I'm saying to myself, my family is so dysfunctional. And if I don't change, it's not going to be any different for my 3 kids. And so that was a turning point for me when I realized you better do something. Aside from that, it was really, we talked about complex PTSD, which is different than PTSD, which is due to an event. So something happens, your dog gets hit by a car, that's traumatic. It's an event, but it's over. When you have complex PTSD, you're marinating in trauma. It's a no-win situation all the time. You end up developing learned helplessness. I can't get out. Why should I even try, right? So that, I would have to say that's pretty much was my experience. It was ongoing, the inability to figure out how to avoid the verbal abuse, the chastising, it was all day long. Being iced out by my mom, feeling like I was her adversary. Just couldn't make her happy. And then was
your father a part of this? Was he in the picture?
Yeah, my father was a part of it, and it was completely dysfunctional because he knew there was something going on, but he would say things like, I have to live with her, basically deal with it.
Got it. So how long did this, so you said this was obviously taking place as a child. And how long did this go on until you actually did something about it?
So I had a mental connection at 21 where I realized I can't worry about her anymore. I'm engaged. I got engaged at 21. I can't worry about her anymore. But all I did was transfer all of the attachment trauma, the abandonment trauma onto my new husband. So I just recreated this pattern in him, chased his approval. He was just as passive aggressive. He was just as much a gaslighter as my mom was. It was freaky when I realized I married my mother. All I did was flip the script. Nothing got resolved. Yeah. And then when I was about 35, I had what I call the OK Corral moment with my mom, where, I made the mistake of saying, boy, I'm so tired today. It was my birthday. We had pizza on paper plates. That's what we do in Queens. So we had pizza on paper plates. We had Yeah, we were drinking like diet soda out of coffee mugs. I mean, it wasn't really big. It wasn't a shindig for my birthday by any means, And I made the mistake of saying, I'm so tired, but I was going through my divorce. It was just a really trying time. She invited my ex-husband there. That was ongoing. Yeah, they had a relationship going on. And she turned to me, she said, I don't know what you're so tired for. You didn't raise a freaking finger the whole time you're here. So that was minor, but I just looked at her and I had a therapy session that day. And my therapist said to me, the next time someone insults you or hurts your feelings, I don't want you to do anything besides ask yourself how you feel. I had therapy that morning because usually, when you're an abused adult child, everything goes under the rug. If I don't see it, then I don't have to deal with it, right? Because if I deal with it, I don't know I'm just going to experience more abandonment and more trauma. So it's a double bind. I seek their approval, but I also seek a negative outcome. So I'm screwed. So I just have to put up with this. And that day, I just sat there and asked myself how I felt, and I just started to cry. And I went in the back room. I called each of my kids. I put their coats on. I said, we're leaving. My mother came to the back room. Where are you going? And I just put my finger in her face and I said, I'm not 12 anymore. And you don't get to talk to me like this. I said, move out of my way. And she did. We had a few words, but I walked out of the house. My father's shaking his head like, oh my God, this house is exploding. My brother's giving me the finger and I'm giving him the finger. And I'm like, you're crazy. I'm getting out of here. You guys are all nuts. You guys are all nuts. And it was that moment of I had this complete breakdown, and I just said it. You guys are all nuts. She's wrong. You don't say anything. I'm not 12 anymore. I'm going through a divorce. If a girl ever needed her mother, it was now. This is insanity.
Yeah.
And so we didn't talk for like over a year. I went no contact for over a year. She wrote me a letter, told me I was a liar. I was like, okay, I'm lying. Whatever. That was the beginning of the change.
So that was your moment of clarity, you would say? That was the turning point?
For me, for sure, because they knew I wasn't playing. And I realized this fairly recently, that narcissists want to tear you down because they're afraid of you finding your power, because when you do, you prove them effing wrong.
Out of curiosity, what is, after you guys didn't talk for a year, what's that relationship look like now, and how did you reapproach that situation?
My mom actually passed away in 2018 on my birthday. I guess she was trying to get me back, so she passed away. But our relationship, she ended up with dementia, which is very interesting because she got softer. She was kinder. She said things like, I love you. You're a great mom. These were things that I never heard her say when she was, in her right state of mind. It was like the dementia took away all of these issues, being the adult child of an alcoholic, the unresolved anger, her own mother wounds. It was like, it was just gone. So I'm grateful for that. But in terms of renegotiating our relationship back, what ended up happening was it was very slow. And by the time I got divorced, I felt like I had no skin on my body. Life was so difficult. I got no alimony. I would have chewed my arm off to get out of my marriage. So he lied about how much money he made. So I got very little child support. He sold our business. I had no source of income because I was working in the family business. And I had 3 kids to take care of. So I was not to be messed with. It was like, if you bring any ounce of negativity to my life, I'm going to kick you off my stoop. Like, I'm just going to kick you in the back and like, you can go rolling down the street. I don't care. That's how fierce I was at that point. And so when they started coming back, I was different. It was like, we're not ignoring this anymore.
Yeah.
So if you want to be in my life, I'm calling it out. And if that's too uncomfortable for you, I guess you just can't be in my life anymore. And that was really the way I rolled moving forward. And everything has changed. The way my sister, my brother, my dad talk to me now, everything's changed.
So when did you start picking up the tools? Because you give so many brilliant tools in your course. Mm-hmm. You even go back and you give so much information of the child's psyche and all these beautiful, and by the way, I want to tell our listeners, if there are 5 of you that want to take her course, I will pay for it. But you're going to have to reach out and write to her your story, and she will, she'll select 5 people. There's another person I'm paying for. This is how much I believe in this woman. So when did you start picking up these amazing tools that you put the light on for us?
Well, I think what happened was I was going into therapy, and this first session, again, I was so codependent. I was talking to my husband like, please, we need therapy. Something's happening. My feelings were changing for him. And I was begging him, please pay attention. And he's like, no, I don't feel crazy. If you feel crazy, you go into therapy. And I thought, okay. To make him happy, I went into therapy again. So there's no coincidence, but I find a therapist. In the first session, he says to me, listen, you're not crazy, but you're highly codependent. And it's going to take everything you have to recover from this, because your parents are 2 unrecovered adult children of alcoholics. And I wanted to jump out of my chair. I was like, finally, there's a name for this. Like, there's a name for this. And I felt like if there was a name, then I could get better. And so with that, I read Codependent No More, and I was lit on fire. And what I took away from Codependent No More was, we are asleep. Codependency is a program. It's a pattern. It's a subconscious pattern. Our brains operate like computers. We can only do what we've been programmed to do. We only do what we know. And that was exciting to me. And then I started researching the subconscious mind. I started researching the quantum field. I started researching child psychology, and I put it all in spirituality, and I put it all together, and it just made sense to me. It was so cohesive, and everything made sense. I am enough. Spiritually, I am enough. I was born enough, but my brain doesn't know that. So my spirit can't fly as long as my ego's in the way. As long as ego is wounded, I'm going to still be reacting out of ego. So I have to heal the ego. So then I have to understand the patterns that have affected me. So when I was studying the work of Bruce Lipton, he talked about cell expression, where we used to think that genes determined outcome. That's not true. It's the environment that a gene is in, or a cell is in, that will decide how it gets expressed. And I thought, well, it's the same thing with children. If I was born to, and I started to just do like very analytical studies. Well, if I was born to this family, then I wouldn't have that pattern. I would have this pattern. So it's not me, it's just my programming. Now, how do I get people to recognize it's not them? They're enough. They're enough. How do I get them to understand and believe that at their core, they're enough? They have nothing to prove, but it's their programming that's corrupt. And I became my own study. I knew that I had to observe my thoughts, not react to them. So I had to raise my level of consciousness. There was no way that I was going to be able to heal myself unless I could come out of the amygdala and the hippocampus, which is the limbic system. I understood metacognition is a function of the prefrontal lobe of the neocortex. So I was like, I have to climb out of the subconscious mind, and I have to reconnect to the prefrontal lobe. I have to make executive decisions that are based on rationale and logic, not emotions.
Yeah.
Because emotions are not logical. We can all love someone who beats us. We can all love someone who is mean to us. Emotions aren't logical. So once I began to get very analytical about it, it was hokey pokey for a while, because I felt like I was in altered universes, because I was having conversations, and at the same time, I was observing the way my mind was responding to people. And then every day I would diligently spend hours journaling about my mindset and journaling, and then figuring out what has to shift there, and began coaching. I began coaching, and I just became so busy. I was like, I have to create a coaching program, because I can't coach everybody that wants to be coached by me individually. So that's how that journey started and began.
What are some of the things that you do on a daily basis? I mean, yeah, you're a mentor, and you're an advocate. You're very intellectual. You have a lot of experience, a lot of research and knowledge. But what does somebody of your caliber do to take care of themselves?
So I wake up every day about 3 o'clock, between 3 and 3:30 in the morning, and I spend about an hour and a half on personal development work. No joke. So I read every morning. I meditate every morning. I journal every morning. The new thing that I started doing, I have a new journal. And now what I've begun doing is I try to remember the negative thoughts that I had the day before, and I reframe them in an absolute positive and affirmative. And so whatever it is, if I try to recall it, And the next day I just reframe it in a positive. So it's like, I'm trying to be extremely intentional. I understand in terms of, I also teach about the law of attraction. Again, you can't have these conversations without recognizing that if I'm caught up in ego, right? If I am upset that something's happening in my environment, right? And all I do is complain about it, all I've done is root myself to that reality. My acknowledgement of that reality is saying to the matrix, yes, this is what's going on. So all I've done is made it worse. So when I tell people, if you want it to go away, stop talking about it, they get upset with me. But I tell them, it's like a zit, right? Like if you want it to go away, don't poke it, don't squeeze it, don't irritate it. If you just leave it alone, chances are it'll go away. It won't even leave a scar, right? And so I'm recognizing that in order for me to live an intentional life, I have to live as if it's already manifested, right? Mm-hmm. Because when I imagine 2, I'm telling the universe it hasn't happened yet. So now what I'm doing is I'm upping up my consciousness. I'm living more and more intentionally. It happened. I don't tell most people this because they think I was crazy. Oh, I don't have a job. Well, in my head, you already have a job. I already see you at work. That sounds very uncaring, Lisa. And I'm like, that's the best thing that I can do for you. I just created a reality somewhere in the universe that has you working and manifesting your desires. If I say, yeah, it sucks, you don't have a job, I just rooted you to that spot, dude. I just made an agreement. I just created a covenant with you. What do you want me to do? You want me to see you wealthy? You want me to see you poor? Because I want to see you abundant and living the life that you want. If you want me to argue for your limitation, okay, your life sucks. Okay. But I want to see you healthy. I want to see you prosperous. I want to see you done. I already want to imagine whatever it is that you want to imagine. I'm going to hold that vibration for you until you get there. That's how I train my clients. I never see my clients where they are. I always see them where I want them to go.
That's amazing. So it's helping them manifest their actual dreams.
Exactly right. The Bible says something like, where 2 or more, there I am.
Yep.
Right, Hilary? Where 2 or more, there I am. Yes. And so I create an agreement with this person and I see them where I want them to go. And only if they break that, if they say, no, that's not where I'm going, I'll never get there. That's the only way they won't get there, because I already believe it, that they're.
I love it. I love it.
So let me ask. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you have any other tips that you do? Any other plugs that you want to throw in there for our listeners that you do?
I think, the one thing that saved my life, Hilary probably knows this, is that, I began meditating hours a day. When I was very ill with codependency, my mind was racing, it was ricocheting, and I knew that there was something wrong with the way my mind was operating. But it's sort of like you have 1,000 tennis balls and you have to try to catch them and corral them and organize them. It's almost impossible. And so I use meditation as a tool to help me slow down the mental chatter. And so when I first started recovering, I knew that was step 1. And so I would meditate for an hour, and then I would sit up and I'd say, oh, mind's still racing. I went back down, plugged my headphones in. I did another round of meditation until I sat up and was like, okay, it's peaceful in there. Okay, now I'm going to be able to catch the negative thoughts and quickly reframe them. And so I would say meditate, journal, be intentional, forgive people. The fastest and easiest way to heal your ego is to forgive. Everybody's asleep. Everybody's wounded. Everybody is living in an unconscious life until they live a more conscious life. So forgiveness for me is the quickest way to heal your ego. I work on that every day.
And the listeners that are not familiar with Lisa Romano, she is happily married today. Mm-hmm. And so to give some people we talked about your ex-husband. So what is different in your marriage today?
I'm different because after I got divorced, I was in a few relationships that were unhealthy. And then I realized I'm the common denominator. These men don't know each other. It was me. They did not know each other, and I was careful. I dated somebody over here and somebody over there. It's like, no. So it's me. So, and then I just asked myself again, in a very analytical way, what are you doing wrong? And it was, you're ignoring red flags. And so I said to myself, okay, bingo. If I want to manifest the life that I really want, I have to stop playing games with myself, right? Because nothing is invisible to the universe. We're not going to get away with it. The universe it's a vibrational place. We're streaming a stream of consciousness. You're not going to win, So you could do it in the dark. You could do it under the covers. You could hide it under the bed. The universe feels it, sees it. It's gonna show up. And so what I did differently was I became intentional. I became the partner that I wanted to manifest. No, I didn't play games with myself. I was like, nope, being authentic. Nope, being transparent. Nope, being humble, being kind, being generous. I'm leaving all of it on the table. And if I don't like something, I'm going to say it. And when I first met my husband, Anthony, there were a few times I thought, I don't know, I think I have to address that. And I did. And I was so proud of myself because it was received well. If there was something that he needed to apologize for, he did. If there was a misunderstanding, and I was like, oh, this is good. This is empathy. Wow. That's what empathy is? Like, oh, I like this, So I'm different. I love myself. And I'm willing to walk away. That's a big one. And I married someone who's willing to walk away too. Meaning that if he's unhappy, right, with me, then I know that he's willing to walk away. He doesn't need me. And he knows that I'm willing to walk away. So it helps us toe the line. It helps us be very respectful of one another. I know that he's like, no silliness. And he knows that I'm like, no silliness. So there's tremendous respect for the peace that we've created in our lives. We talk about it all the time. Like, we wish everybody was as content and as happy as we are. And all I can say is that I think it's different because I'm so different. I love myself.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sweep things under the rug. I know that I can make it on my own. If I can make it on my own with 3 little kids, I can make it on my own. And I'd rather be alone and unhappy than with someone unhappy. And so.
Obviously, our listeners and so many people out there are going through so many different things. If you were to give them one piece of advice and you were to give them one action for the day, what would that be?
I think the action would be to learn how to feel your feelings. You have to come back into your body. Hilary knows the 1, 2, 3 process, and that is accept how you feel, whatever it is. If it's jealousy, don't push it away. It's normal. Your ego is just trying to protect you. If whatever it is, if it's anger, if it's resentment, if whatever it is, you just said something ugly about someone and you're now embarrassed about it, just accept it. Right? Because the resistance pushes it down and then you can't process it mentally, emotionally, or energetically. And so accept how you feel. The second thing is feel it. So figure out how do you know that you're embarrassed? Your ears get hot? Does your heart feel like someone's sitting on it? How do you know you feel this thing? Right? And the third thing is to decide what you want to do about it. But before you decide, you have to run it through 3 filters. What can you control? What can't you control? And how do you want to feel? How do you want to feel? So if I know that the goal is I want to be peaceful and I'm angry at my sister because she said X, Y, and Z, I already know that the goal is peace. I can't control that she asked me to watch the dog. I don't want to watch a damn dog, right? So she already asked me, I'm annoyed. Okay, I accept that I'm annoyed. I feel it. Oh, my mind's going a little crazy. My mind feels a little fuzzy. My ears get hot. I'm annoyed. What do you want to do about it? Well, what can I control? I can't control that she asked me. What can I control? I can just tell her no. And how do I want to feel? I want to be peaceful. So what are you going to do? I'm going to tell her no. I'm going to be nice about the no, but I'm going to be firm about the boundaries. And if she doesn't like it, I have to accept that because I can't control her action. But if we can learn to feel our feelings, accept how we feel, then we become honest, we become transparent, we become authentic, and we're setting boundaries that really allow us to build a life that is true for us. So feel your feelings.
I love it, dude.
Wow,
Jeez.
Lisa.
Jeez.
Thank you so much.
Feel your feelings.
I am so happy that and honored that you came on here today.
As am I, girl. I support you 110%. You're doing great stuff,
Thank you. I feel
you're the face of power and empowerment and doing it and walking the walk. And you have a lot to be proud of. And it's okay if you stumble. It's okay if you're confused once in a while, call it out. I'm confused. I had a good day today. I didn't have a good day today. There's millions of us that are feeling the same way.
Yeah.
100%.
Nothing to be ashamed of.
Lisa, thank you so much for coming on here. If people want to find you or follow you, where can they go to get more information about you, your course?
Sure. They can go to www.lisaaromano.com. Recently joined Clubhouse, invited Miss Hilary. So we're going to be doing some rooms on Clubhouse too. If anybody's interested, just look me up, Lisa A. Romano.
Awesome.
And remember,
guys,
5 people reach out to Lisa and she'll send me what I need, and I'll pay for 5 of you to go do her 12-week course. It will change your life. I can attest to that.
But they got to do the work, Hilary. First 2 weeks are really rough. Can't give up.
Can't give up. Don't give up. You got to finish.
It's hard.
It is, but it's worth it. So yeah, Jay, I'm so grateful that we had her on the show.
Dude, forgiveness is the best way to heal the ego. And the biggest thing I took away from her, I don't know that I've ever heard anybody say this, not that I can recall, around meditation. And, is basically when she said doing the meditation, like after she was done, if she didn't feel the calmness that she was wanting, she'd go back into meditation. I don't think I've ever heard anybody bring that up before. So I don't know. I was just blown away. There's a lot of things, very educated woman. And again, it goes back to after you've gone through a lot of this stuff and you are sick and tired of being sick and tired. I mean, she's a prime example of, she went deep and she went to a place where she knows what she wants. She's, she's at where she's at because of the work she did.
Yeah. And I love how she talked about her family treats her differently because of what she established. And in certain situations in my life, I had to do the same thing. And it's interesting to think about. It wasn't easy to set those things. And I had to surrender all and love me first.
100%. Well, she went from a person that was taking all the to a no woman. I mean, she was very direct. She meant what she said. Yeah. She came across as so. Great guest. Again, thanks you guys. Thanks Hilary for bringing her on, and we'll be back next week.
Love you, bro.
Love you.